most hated show in the black corner of the internet. This is your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blow Your Minds, coming with another Black Minds News show. Well, let me show what I got on the menu for today. Well, if you happen to be in Austin, Texas, and be homeless, they're passing a law so that now it can be legal for you to be homeless. Broward County Sheriff Deputy suspended for doing what you'll see in the video. Somehow Broward County always got something going on. You know, getting police records is red tape, even though most of them say that they have transparency. Look what happened in this state and how it's causing a ruckus and what's really going on. What if you was trying to get some work done on your home and you had a contractor coming and the contractor pulls up and he's representing a certain thing? Well, check this story out and see how they related to it. Well, EMT, the emergency, the paramedics, right? Well, in this state of Louisiana, it seems like they say, well, we're human, and that because of all the things that we deal with on the daily, can we qualify for PTSD treatment? Well, let's see how they're going to deal with that in Louisiana. 5-year-old little sister was killed in a motel. We want to look at some of that and give my look on it. Stay tuned for that. 40 years ago in Atlanta, there was the Atlanta child murders. After 40 years, have that case been solved? And when they did give you who they said was, do he connect to all 28 of the cases? Stay tuned for that story. The most dangerous spy you never heard of. You might think it might be a man. Be surprised. It's a woman. Stay tuned for that. Well, imagine somebody is family or self in the hospital and somebody else is in another room with you. And maybe they say they want to pull that one off life support. Well, this happened in Chicago where somebody else was pulled on life support that shouldn't have been pulled off in the first place. Check that story out. Last and not least, what if I told you that the creator God was on the flight of Delta and the flight crew got into it with God? Strained God and said, you got to go back to where we picked you up from. Check that story out. Again, this is Black Minds News. I'm your host again, Mr. Blows Your Mind. This channel is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, articulate, decode, unveil, spread the news, whether by news, video, websites, or quote from publication. As I, your whiteologist, disseminate this information, ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people, what you call the United States, as a descendant, we, the BADOS, could be Black American descendant of slaves, Black African descendant of slaves, or some say ADOS, American descendant of slaves. We give honor to our ancestors. And you know what my motto is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. This is July 6th. 2019, strap up, because we about to go ahead and get into this show that again, once we call Black Minds News. Stay tuned for the broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? This is your whiteologist, Mr. Blow Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to the fam, subscribers that should be watching the tape show, right? closing in on that 30 days, right? We're about 24 days in. Pretty soon we'll be back to live. But want to thank you for those who take time out to come and listen to the Black Minds News Report. Passerbys, if you should just happen to drive down the internet and somehow got turned and got down this dead end to show that they got hit in quarantine and blocked off, somehow you got around all that. Welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. This is Black Minds News, and welcome. You could go through the library, see something you like. If you should just happen to see something you don't like, just give me a little message. Let me spit a couple syllables to you. Maybe you make an understanding about a situation you don't understand. And if you should want to come back, we should give you a IOU for another return. And hopefully you should come back, hit that like button, subscribe button, and so forth and other things. And welcome to the most hated show in the corner. Now, let's get into the show, y'all. Now, again, as I said, there's, how this country is having its issues with, with people trying to afford. Seems like places of California, New York, and other places, the rent are escalating to a way where people who just are, the regular 9-to-5 people having a hard time trying to maintain, got family, got bills, cost of living is going up, but it seems like your money don't stretch as far. And so what happens is people get into a rut. And that rut can be devastating where you lose everything. It could be things that happen due to health. It could be things that are just financial, losing a job, the timing of it, and everything else. And so people struggle trying to maintain. And so what happens is that a lot of times people end up becoming homeless and try to fend and survive the best way they can. Now, according to, again, if you understand the historical aspect of this land that we're in, especially those BADOS, which I call Black American Descendant of Slaves, or some could say ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves, we know that, again, the historical aspect and that those who set up here, when they told you in history, they said about vagrancy, right? Think about this. Vagrancy. Vagrancy was considered, again, like loitering, homelessness, and those who cannot maintain or, find some employment. There was a crime for you to be a vagrant, to be homeless, to be without, employment. And so they would lock you up, right? So we can say that was at a particular time, again, you evolve, right? We're thinking that you would evolve over time. But no, it seems like people still look at people who have nothing as like the scum, the worst people on the planet until it runs across you. And then you know what it feels like, right, to go through that situation. So primarily, let's look at this video here. And then I'll come back and I'll say a few things after the fact. But I just want to set that up. Check this out, and we should be right back.
Well, starting today, it's no longer illegal for Austin's homeless to camp on city streets. People can do so without getting a ticket. This comes 10 days after city leaders voted to roll back some of those rules. Now, before the change, it was illegal to sit, lie, or camp in public. Now, police will only give tickets to people who block pathways. The city council changed another part of the ordinance that only makes it illegal to panhandle if someone is being aggressive. Governor Greg Abbott voiced his concerns last week, saying cities need to put public safety first. But Austin Mayor Steve Adler says that's not what this is about. Instead, he says the focus is on decriminalizing homelessness.
As a community, we should demand of ourselves that we don't let this devolve into a conversation about public safety risks or public health risks. That's not what we're talking about.
According to our partners at The Statesman, people can sleep and set up tents on public sidewalks, just not in front of City Hall. Mayor Adler says staffers will review the places people should and should not be allowed to camp by August. With the changes, Austin police will only be able to ticket people who are posing a risk to public safety. Despite some criticism from businesses and Governor Greg Abbott, Adler believes Austin should be a national model for its plan to address homelessness. Kayla Norwood, KV News.
All right, so we see that in Austin, Texas, they figured out they came up with some kind of remedy, which is we're going to make it legal for those who should happen to befall and become homeless, that we won't ticket you arrest you, incarcerate you due to the simple fact of the, your, time of need is not a time for you to actually really pour more shit on people, right? Think about it like that, right? You're already homeless, you don't got no money, and then here comes Flatfoot want to give you a ticket, that money you ain't already got. And if you do got any money, you pretty much spending on the dailies anyway just to maintain your daily necessities of life, right? Now, for those who never had gone through that situation, one of the hardest things for a person to do is to actually wash your ass, right? Think about it. People see homeless people in the way they have this stigmatization in their minds about people like that. And so when they try to go and place a business, even if they should have money, people are kind of fixed a certain way about, again, this whole thing about social status and class, and then again, because you got something somebody don't, and then people feel like they are just lazy and don't want. But again, until you walk in somebody else's shoes and know the history that they've gone through that had got them there. Now, a lot of times it's not all drugs, and not all the times it's all about, bad choices in life. Sometimes it's just circumstances that put people in that situation. And so Austin felt like the best way they seen the deem would be to at least start criminalizing those who are homeless. And so when you think about it, again, as I gave you the history going back to those, again, this England and vagrancy laws, and a lot of them that they brought here to the United States, again, a lot of them when they talk about the criminals they were bringing, it wasn't all their, most villainous criminals. There was a lot of the people who were just poor and with down and without, and they brought them here, vagrancy, and they set up. So that's why you still have that same old element of this snarl when black folks start talking about trying to get themselves in a position to, at least even the playing field somewhat, right? So they still had the old tendency because, again, a lot of them has come from, please pass the jelly, which is the, the black sheep of the white family, right? And so I say that, is it better to make laws where you say it's allowing them to say, well, they can camp out everywhere, but don't camp in front of the goddamn city hall. None of that shit. We're not going to do that. And then we're going to start designated areas for you to only be in, right? So, again, it's got kind of a catch-22 in there, right? It's kind of like, well, you can, but it's still going to be under discretion of the police officer, whether he said your panhandling is too aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Are you, causing, problems for business and so forth. So again, it becomes discretionary. And so what's going to end up happening, it's like, I'm going to do something good, but behind it, it ain't all as good. Again, everything that glitter ain't gold. And so again, as we look in places of California, New York, and homelessness is becoming rampant in this country. And the predominant people are people of our ancestry, Black American descendants of slaves, ADOS. Because why? The blunt of the historicalness and the institutions of how people instituted laws and legislations and redlining and all that has always befallen on we, the descendants of slaves. And so I can't understand how you make laws that would just be for the beneficiary. Say, well, no, we're not going to ticket you because they didn't do you no good because it cost you money that you're going to put somebody, got to give them 3 hots in the cot. They got to go to court. They can't pay the damn ticket. So now they're going to have, so, say that didn't make the situation no better. But why not figure out ways that you can get some housing, right? Let's find some way to make some designated area where you can, again, I was looking the other day, I see on Amazon is selling little teeny bitty houses. I don't know if any of y'all seen that, but they sell little bitty teeny houses. So why don't you, again, instead of, people laying out and then it could be health situations, cause the city to be, a lot of things. Again, there's a lot of things that go on if you ever should befall that happen to you. But it would seem like logically it would be better for you to go ahead and create areas and build homes, freights or whatever it might be to construct areas that allow them. But again, we don't want no more projects, right? Because that's what it seemed like. But it seemed like the best thing was to do is try to find a way to find some employment. But again, if everybody employed, right, then how do you differentiate between the poor and the have-nots, right? So again, if it should be happen to be in Austin, Texas, it might be something that might be good. But again, like I said, they give you the right hand, but then the left hand got something else behind it. Okay, that sound good, but then it's still even discretionary on the police officer whether he decide that he again may have bad rapport with you. Yeah, fuck it, I said this what it is, and this what I'm gonna write down, and you deal with it in court. So again, it is what it is, right? I guess there's no complete fix until all of it becomes completely overhaul and fix, and where again the pie in the sky is where everybody thinking they equal. But I heard a former I can't think of his name, he said that the illusion of equality is just that, it's an illusion. So moving on, right? So what else I got in here for you? I got this here again. Like I said, we're talking about with officers, right? We talk about officers. And again, like I say, police are something that is, needed upon the assistance when you need it. So again, people don't have problem with police officers. What they have problems with was the injustice that some, officers may, just lash out and do things due to the simple fact that may be personal in their own life. And again, this is a way to get it off. And so let's look at this, because again, Broward County in Florida seems to be in the news a lot lately. It's like there's something going on in the police department there that they have a lot of, bottled up anger. And so it don't take much if they get you in a situation or you get them in a situation, they're going to become your parent. Boy, you look at this situation here, and then that's what this look like. So check this out. I'll be right back. Check this out.
We begin with new developments in the case of a Broward Sheriff's deputy who was caught on camera assaulting a handcuffed inmate.
That deputy has now been charged. Local 10 News reporter Alex Finney joins us live with the details. Alex.
And that deputy has been charged by the state, charged with misdemeanor battery. One thing we've learned is Deputy Serino has been with the Broward Sheriff's Office for 4.5 years. The Broward Sheriff's Office, we did press them a little bit earlier today for more information as this news broke just hours ago. They said at this point they are still working to gather new details. Deputy Jorge Sobrino is seen punching inmate David Rafferty O'Connell in the head. This was on January 1st at Broward Health North. O'Connell was in the hospital after being arrested for trying to fight an employee at a Walmart in Pompano Beach. He was admitted for a wellness check. Now in this body cam video, O'Connell is seen screaming that he wants to leave. And within seconds, you see Deputy Sobrino punching O'Connell while he is still handcuffed to the bed. The profanity-laced exchange and screaming continues. Officer Sobrino knew he was being recorded, even at one point pointing to the camera. The Broward Sheriff's Office acting swiftly following the incident, saying, quote, Sheriff Gregory Toney immediately suspended him without pay. Until Deputy Sobrino's criminal case is concluded, BSO Internal Affairs case remains open. At Local 10, we have been following this for you since it first broke just a few months ago, and we're going to continue to do that. As for Deputy Serino, we know that he is expected in Broward Court within the next few weeks. Still no date has been decided just yet, but if he is convicted, he does face a year behind bars. We are live at the Broward Sheriff's Office tonight. Alex Finney, Local 10 News.
All right, so we see there in Fort Lauderdale, reporting the story. Then you see that there's an individual that was being locked up. Not really, wasn't even locked up. He was really in a hospital bed, right? And so, let's put it like this. Let's do it like this. Hold on, let me do this because I want to make sure this is right on one that's coming out here. All right, so let's make sure this is right. All right, so what it talks about here, let me go ahead and give you this layout on what happened here, because you've seen the video, right? And so it says the BSO deputy who punched man handcuffed to hospital bed charged with battery, right? And let me go ahead and show you, let me give you that visual or that, right? Let me go ahead and give you the visual, right? You see that right there, right? So we see that the man is up there, is handcuffed to the bed, right? And then we see that George Sobrino on January 1st of Broward Health North, and getting charged with a misdemeanor charge. The allegation is stemming from arrest that he did of a 27-year-old man named David Rafferty O'Connell, right? And we see that the officer and resisting the officer without violence, okay? This is what he was charging him, charges of disorderly conduct, battery on a law enforcement officer, and resisting an officer without violence. Now, again, for those who ever had that before, getting resisting arrest. Resisting arrest is one of the, again, discretionary things. It's between the police officer and the one he arrested. Now, you may not even be resisting, but again, you know how it is, throwing enough shit in the wind, and something should stick, right? So, discretionary call between resistance. So, if you ever hear somebody talking about they got resisting arrest, majority of the time, they probably weren't even really resisting. What was the initial charge to even get you to the point to say that I'm resisting? See, that stuff will get dropped and thrown out, and then they'll try to stick you with the resistance. So that means that when you go on, when they, pulling up your records and they see that, then all of a sudden you combative towards police officer. And yet, we see that what transpired in this video did not match according to what he said. That he said that this Rafferty O'Connell was already in the hospital with a handcuffed in the bed. So I don't understand how you say the things that he end up saying, right? He said disorderly conduct. Now, he may not like this conduct because, again, do a little irate or whatever, and he doing certain things. Okay, he disorderly conduct, right? But he was already there cuffed to the bed, wasn't he? So I'm trying to still figure out, what he was already in there for. They say battery on a law enforcement officer. When did that dude ever even punch him or anything? But see, throw enough shit in the wind to make it seem justified, right? And so to say resistant, again, like I said, so now that all that come out, again, it's kind of like people are getting so accustomed to having videos, like police officers are having so accustomed to having it to the fact they forget and they're doing things. And then to say, look at the camera and say, look, see, you're on camera, as if like what he did somehow is not being seen, right? So, you got to ask yourself, what is the psychological aspect of most of the people's mind when they sitting there knowing you're being recorded and then think that it's not going to have any ramifications on you, right? And so we see the picture, you see the dude, he's all beamed up, right? Bruised up and all that stuff. And so it's just, again, do people hate cops? That's not what it is. It's more the fact that the injustices, again, sometimes they say power corrupts. Corrupts, absolutely, don't it? It corrupts. And so some dudes just don't need to have that kind of power. Really, when you think about it, police officers have too much power when you really think about it. They can determine whether you live or die, whether your ass can be incarcerated, whether they can just, ruin you just because, right? I can fabricate situations to cause you to go through something, then later on down the line, maybe you get found out, but you done went through this whole process, and then to get slapped on the hand and stuff like that does not really justify what ended up happening. And so a lot of times you just see the abuse that takes place because, again, a lot of people don't realize that police officers is just as knowledgeable about the law as attorneys. Again, when you go to court, who's in the court with you? Who done arrest you? The police officer. So if he's going constantly to court and they're getting paid to be in court, so that's why a lot of times, again, you get a lot of them in the case. That way you're not on the street on the beat, you in court getting paid for sitting up in court. Whether you're telling the truth or you're lying, one of the two, right? And so they be knowing what kind of cases to put on them or to either, when they really ain't got nothing, they know just go through the process and they become one of them questionables. Calls was, again, discretion of a cop, whether the system going to believe them. Again, they had to have two officers. Think about that. It's already set against the deck when they come up on you when there's two officers, because it's them two word versus your one word. But then if you somebody else with you, then that's why they both get both of you and then split it up, and then they both be like with both of y'all, and then you each one is telling your own story while the other one don't know what the other one was going through. So again, to be honest, we have to look at it like this. Have police got to the point where the system can't really do what is necessary to really reprimand them. Because, it's become now really the front line in the country because, again, according to what they say, you can't bring the military in. So who becomes the military inside of the nation? Your front line is going to be your police officers. And primarily, when they say serve and protect, they're not talking about individuals really as people. They're talking about businesses, right? The merchants. That's number one. Keep them niggas from flowing over in these areas and out of this shit here where the money at. So that's why they're always in our area riding around all the damn time. But you don't see that many if you should happen to be in those areas of white. You don't have all that police there. But where you live at, it's the patty patrol. It's the patty roll, rolling through to make sure that you don't spill over into areas that they don't want you in. And so what happens is it builds up this aggression. And so let's look at it this way too. When business is slow, right? When business is slow, meaning there ain't a lot of crime. People ain't getting pulled over. People ain't writing tickets, and you ain't doing nothing. A police job is a merit job based on the simple fact that, again, you want to move up. You got to show and prove. So a little situation can be blown way out because somebody needs something. Because again, they got some thirst and they trying to move up and they want to, all this. So. It's just out of hand now, man. It's like you can't really do nothing because you bite the hand that feeds you and they allow shit to happen to you and don't do shit about it, right? So they kind of caught in a bad place right now, and the all-seeing eye is catching a lot of it, but it's so abundance of it to the fact that it's like, communities are not having that kind of rapport with police officers due to the simple fact that it's just too much of it happening. So you can't blame the people, and they're seeing this constantly. So it's like, you can say rules and regulations, and we're going to bring in the, training. But again, as I say, and I say again, if a person 25, 30 years old, 35 years old, training for a few weeks compared to somebody been living 30, 35 years, that's not going to change who they is. You know what I'm saying? That leopard ain't gonna change that spot. That zebra ain't gonna change its stripe. It's gonna be what it is, and it'll do for the time being. But after that, it's gonna go. Go back to what it used to be. So it's just a hard place right now, and people have to be enduring. But the citizenry is getting to the way that there's gonna have to be some changes. Well, as time go on, people gonna figure out some things, and as time go on, we probably will be reporting that. So let's move on, right? So again, we're going to still talk about dealing with police, right? Again, we don't overhear the beat and berate up police officers because we know that, again, like I say, police officers are needed at times. But when the system that says it's supposed to adhere to its rules, policies, and protocols, and then when you try to utilize it, it seems to be slow, dragging its feet. Because, again, the information that you might be needing is to actually help you to get some closure or to find out the facts about somebody that, again, was, something should befall it be one of your loved ones and things going. You want proper information. You want to rely on the system to give you the proper information so that you know exactly what they know so that you can make the proper situations so that you can get remedy. Well, check this out. Let me show what I'm talking about. So let me show this, and we should be right back. And I gotta do this right quick, and then we should be right back. Check this out.
transparency and access to police reports. It has been a huge problem in the Valley for years.
Now, by law, these reports are supposed to be released within a reasonable amount of time, and you have a right to it.
But in so many cases, police are holding them back for weeks or even months. ABC 15 investigator Sonu Wasu looks into this problem.
Something that's a violation of your rights.
Here's how it works right now. You want a police report or body camera video? You put in a request using their online form. Then you just wait.
Move to your left and watch your step.
You are looking at new video just into our newsroom of an officer-involved shooting that took place last October. The reason we're showing you this video, we put in a request to see it 8 months ago. Police just released it to us today. It's an issue affecting not just the media, but also tax-paying citizens in the community.
Yesterday was 7 weeks ago that my brother died. To this day, I have no police report, I have no incident report, I have no force of use report. I can't get anything.
He died in May 9th. We still don't have the police report. All you guys give us is the runaround.
Even lawyers are complaining.
We have to file a lawsuit just to enforce police departments to give us our evidence.
Frustrated by this slow release of public information, because in the legal world, you have a deadline to file a notice of claim. Attorney Ben Taylor says he is still waiting for the police reports in the case of his client, Aaron Fowler. Fowler alleges 2 Phoenix police officers tackled him to the ground and roughed him up, all over what they thought was a stolen car. Taylor wants to see the body camera video.
Phoenix PD is not being transparent with us and our client.
We spoke to an attorney to clarify your rights to public records in Arizona.
Police departments have a reasonable period of time to respond to public records requests and produce police reports when you request them.
A reasonable amount of time sounds pretty vague.
The law doesn't define what a reasonable period of time is. Maybe that's 3 days. In some cases, it may be 2 months. But generally speaking, if the police department has a record and doesn't give it to you, that's a problem for them.
Phoenix police tell me one of the reasons for this big delay is the sheer number of public record requests they are getting. About 3,000 a week. Is that an excuse?
That's no excuse at all. The Phoenix Police Department has a lot of requests, but they also have a lot of resources. They have a lot of taxpayers here to fund it. If they don't think they've got enough people to respond to these requests in time, they should just hire someone else.
In the last few months, we've heard several police chiefs in the Valley telling the community they're transparent. Phoenix police even have a whole section dedicated to transparency on their website. But then you hear from people in the community demanding to know,
You kept the information from us. It's 7 weeks.
where is the transparency? In Phoenix, Sonu Wasu, ABC 15, Arizona.
Phoenix police declined our request for an interview, but in an email told us to check back with them in a few weeks to discuss improvements they're making to their system.
All right. So we're seeing in Phoenix, Arizona, right, that it seems like there's some things going on there that, again, hopefully you never have to go through this situation. Again, and I'm pretty sure in every state is different, right? So getting police records, what are your rights, is really what this report here was talking about. And so it says that, you see many law enforcement agencies say they are transparent, but when it comes to access to getting public records, it's just like routine. As police reports, some communities will argue there is no transparency at all. Now it says by state law, public agencies must release public documents within a reasonable amount of time. You have a right to records, but frequently agencies, including police departments, stall when asked for documents. In some cases, it can be weeks or even months to get requested items released. We have seen police agencies at times not release records such as incident reports and body camera videos until 8 to 9 months afterwards. Attorneys in the Valley say that kind of delay is not considered a reasonable amount of time and can be a violation of your rights. Now, here's how it works. In the city of Phoenix, if you want a police record or report or request another public document, you have to fill out a form through its online record portal. Then the waiting begins. People who expect reports can expect to get it on the spot, but they can expect to get it within a reasonable amount of time. If it goes on for a couple of weeks and then they don't have it or don't get it yet, or it's available to the police but not to the victims, they should talk to a lawyer. They may be able to sue and get documents more quickly. And attorney Corey Langhofer, the Phoenix attorney Benjamin Taylor, said it is not uncommon for his firm to file a lawsuit to compel police departments to release public records needed to put together a case. And so we have to look at it like this, right? So let's look at the word request anyway, right? When you say, I want to request, record request, right? So the word request means to plead. Maybe it's pleading, demand, begging, panhandling, cry for, pass the hat, right? Have one's hand out for. Now look at it. They said, really, you begging, right? Think about it. They said, well, you're begging. You're begging to have something that we primarily really are not trying to give you, right? We're not really trying to give you that at all. We're really just trying to say, well, this is policies and what it says, but what we actually going to do is going to be two different things, right? We're not going to really do that because, again, it could be detrimental to one of our officers. Now, again, if the business is about justice and crime and law, then how is it that what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander? We understand that at times you may make a bad situation, a bad judgment, but again, if I can be held to every extent of the letter of the law, then what goes for me also goes for you as well. Again, then I understand that they said that trying to find equality is an illusion, right? Like there's no such thing as equal equality for everyone. There's always going to be some difference in it. But again, when it's something that's like this is the proper protocols and this is the policy that you said you adhere to, then when people request certain things, again, when it says reasonable, what is reasonable? You won't even put a time frame on it. But the kick in the head was that reasonable time. But if you notice that the notice of claim has a deadline, like I said, like when you file for it, there's a notice of claim. They have a specified, like you may have, let's say maybe it's 120 days, maybe it's 60 days or 90 days. They say that straight out. But when it comes on behalf of them, it's kind of like, well, reasonable. Well, what is reasonable? 10 days, 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, 9 months? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't specify. And then think about how the process of how they do it, right? They say, well, you go online and then you fill out the process form. But then what actually receipt do you have that shows the day that you actually did it, right? And so that you have any records that prove you just say what you say. But again, let me show you something else they said. Let me show you something they said. They said that, now check this out. Let me show what they said here. Let's see if I got that in here. Let's see. I thought I had that in here. Yes, I do. I got it in here. Okay. Check this out. Let me show you this, y'all. Let me show you this. Then you see in the report when it said this, they said 3,000 requests per week, right? They're saying they're getting 3,000 requests per week from resident citizens of Phoenix, Arizona, requesting to get, these documents. Think about that, 3,000. If you did the math of 3,000 a week, and they said there's 52 weeks in a year, you would get about 156,000 requests a year. That don't seem like that's a problem. If we're gonna take what they said of 3,000 requests per week, that's a lot of people having issues, whether they are justified or not. But just requesting, that's a lot of jobs. You're understaffed. There's no way you could have, 5, 6, 7 people trying to deal with 156,000 a year. You understand? That's a lot of work. Even though it's not like back in the old days before everything was computerized, where you didn't go and put in a name and it could punch up. They had to have somebody and go back through them old files, go through all them folders. Now I could see 8, 9 months then, right? Because they said I went through some, we couldn't, right? Manually, right? Going back to the manual. But now that you have everything so-called digitalized, right? Computerized, then the thing should be able to go and just be a little bit more, instant. So, they like to use the word transparency, right? But They said that on the website. You seen it was said on the website, but then when they said at the end, you heard them at the end. He said, "Well, they took the email, answered me on the end call, and they said, well, in a few weeks we're gonna have new policies and we're gonna come up with new training and stuff like that." But that's not what you was calling for. You want to get a response to the situation. Now, did you see that brother in there that they had in there? Right, they had the brother in there who. Let me see if I can pull that up for y'all right quick. His name was Aaron Fowler, I think it was, right? You seen the brother Aaron Fowler, right? And let me show you what he looked like, right? So you see that brother there when you see it in the video, right? You seen the brother, right? And again, he got that due to the simple fact that they was under the assumption that his car that he had was stolen, right? And as the story goes on, the story said, well, his car came up in their system as stolen, but I think it was more like him not paying his car note. I'm trying to figure out how does, and I've heard that before. Matter of fact, I done been through that before. Well, motherfucking police officer, Mr. Blowy Mind, was going east. The police officer was going west, and we passing each other. We on a four lanes. Right? 2 lanes on my lane. I'm on the far south lane. He's on the far north lane, but he's coming from east to west, and I'm going west to east. He seen me do a U-turn. Now again, I had this car. I couldn't even drive. Every time I drove the motherfucker, they kept pulling me over because the motherfucker was just that cold, right? So he pulls me over and shit, talking about somewhere, my car coming up saying this was stolen. So I was like, well, take me to jail. Well, it ain't nothing to talk about. Wait, what was all this talking about? Go ahead, put this cup on me. Take me to jail. Say, well, hold on. Hey, Mr. Blowy, why you in so rush to go to jail? You just told me my car's stolen, right? But now he goes back, come back. You know what I'm saying? I never seen somebody who's so rushed to go to jail. Well, wait a minute. How can you sit there and tell me when I know damn well my car ain't stolen? Come back, I didn't run my place and everything. See, that didn't have nothing else. He could get me no warrant and all that other shit. What he end up doing? Oh, you have a good day, Mr. Blows Your Mind. I said, I thought the car was registered stolen. He ain't going on about his long hair, right? So again, that sounds like some bullshit here too. Man, car ain't coming up stolen, but y'all beamed him up, and look how he looking. He fearful, like he was pleading to please don't kill me, right? So based after all that had took place, what does he do? He's trying to find a way so that he can, get some kind of retribution for going through the ordeal that was not merited. And what they doing, they dragging their feet. You see how he looked up close up later on. Right? See? But everybody says that we hate police officers. No, we just don't like, anybody, if that happens, whether they are an official or administrator or whatever, if that situation happened, of course, if you're not going to go back and retaliate physically, you're going to go through the process and go through, the judicial system. And it's funny when it becomes one of theirs, it's like it ain't about that no more. It's only good to administer to you, but it's not good for us. And so you can't have a biased system like that and then think that everything is always going to be good, even though, like I said, that it's kind of like out of hand now because a lot of them came in there now. This is the way they're going to sit up there and hide up in there. And so you don't want them to be the one because they'll let shit happen to them and they know that shit. So they not going to do nothing right. They're going to make sure, no, we ain't trying to do that shit. So even that lawyer, his lawyer, you seen the Aaron Fowler, his lawyer was like, his name was Benjamin Taylor, right? He said, we have to file a lawsuit and force the police department to give us our evidence. Ain't that a bitch? He said he had to file because it's a normal procedure. And I even know for a fact my own self that when you do that shit, they drag their damn feet on it. You'll keep getting continuouses because, again, they don't want you to get the background of them. Ain't no way you could be on the police force that long period of time and let's say a situation that befalls you and an officer, right, has done things that you say, man, there was no justification the shit he just pulled on me. You think you the first one he done did that to? So when you now request to get the background and all that, they're going to drag their feet because you're going to find out and stumble a lot of other shit. And that's going to be credible to your side to what you say you didn't and what you can prove. And so that's why they be very slow about that. But again, like I said, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. But again, we see that this is the system we live in, and it's not always, what they say it is, right, on face value. All right, so let me go to something else here. I wanted to bring that to you. That's in Phoenix, Arizona. But again, that's in every state is different, right? Each state got its own way of how it does what it do. All right, so this one here, I got here. Let me see what I did with that. Let's see what I did with that here, right? Where's my stuff at, man? All right, here we go. So how about this, right? Let's say you see this, right? You see this. And you be like, man, what's this, man? You're like, hold up, dude coming to my crib, gonna do some work in my house, and I see this. You're going to be like, you going to do what this person did? Well, let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll be right back. Check this out.
You going to do it? You want me to do it? Hi. You know what? I do apologize. I know you've come from a very long way, but we're going to use someone else.
She's upset with the flag.
No, I'm beyond upset with the flag. No, you don't need to take it down. You continue to believe what you need to believe, sir. But no, I cannot pay you for your services. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. So, there's a Atlanta couple declines contractor service over Confederate flag. Now, let's imagine that, right? You called up to try to get some service done to your house, right? And this dude pulls up at your crib with just a good old boys, don't mean no harm, huh? Old Dukes of Hazzard flag, huh? Thinking he about to come up in your black house, right? Now, did you see the brother? Was the brother shuffling? Was the brother shuffle dancing? Did he shuffle? Oh, she don't like your flag. She got a problem with your flag. You should have a problem with it too. Huh? You should have a problem with it too. Why? The sister sitting there, you know what I'm saying? She the one taking care of the hand of business. I think you should have been like, man, look, we ain't gonna be dealing with that. You out here bold like that. We people, we BADOS, ADOS, and we offensive. That's offensive to us, and so that we refuse your service based on the simple fact. He talking about, I could take it down. Ain't nobody not taking it down. He said that. She said, well, that's what you believe in. We ain't here to make what you believe. We're just not saying we refusing to have service by you. And, brother, you know what I'm saying, brother. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong, man? Damn, come on, man. Right? So, again, we see Zeke and Alice, I think Zeke and Elisa or Allison Brown, they were trying to get some repairs done. Matter of fact, I think they sound like there was some golf cart brakes that they would get, right? They was going to hire a contractor to do that. And he came as the doorbell camera video, as we see there. This was a couple in Dallas, Georgia. And you see in the back of the truck, as he was taking off, you see the bellowing Confederate flag just waving, huh? Right? And so you see that Zeke tries to explain, right? Now, they saying Zeke is, I guess, Zeke, like I said, get them Dukes, right? That's what he was, right? Old Zeke was trying to explain why I could take it down, but ain't no need to explain nothing. It is what it is, and right. And the thing ain't nothing to talk about that. It is what it is, right? You see a motherfucker come to your crib like this. Let me show you. Let me give you that up. and close. Let's see if I got that or not. Let's see. Yeah, I got that, I think. All right. So here's a mug coming to your house, right? And this is what he driving up in, right? Now, some of you would be like, I don't mean that. That's just, again. But again, you in this being in Atlanta, right? I'm pretty sure they probably ADOS, BADOS. And in the time and era that we in and all the shit and the climate, the shit that's going on, a motherfucker had a nerve to come and be like that. And again, he's promoting whatever he want to believe. That's his to each his own. But you have a right to refuse service for the simple fact, again, that, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't feel comfortable because I don't understand. You see who I am. You know where I live. I don't need all that. So we cool with this, right? And so I think she handled it the more proper way to deal with it. I just refuse your service based on the simple fact, and that's what it is, and that's the end of that. I just think that the brother could have had a little bit, either just don't say nothing, right? But to sit there and try to cow tie and be like, hey, she got a problem with your flag. I ain't got to explain shit. He already know what it is. That's why he do what he do. He pissing off a lot of people, should be black people that he driving past out there doing what he doing. But to come to somebody's house, again, as a professional, you don't know who you riding up on. So shouldn't that be something that you would do like, okay, after work maybe, but you're going to do it during your, he's his own profession. He got his own business. So he can do what he want to do. But then just like she did, she had the right to refuse the service. I commend to that sister for doing what she did. She stood up, right? Brother, come on, man. Put a little bit more bass in it, man, and you ain't got to explain shit, right? Saying you don't need no speech. It is what it is. It was all obvious for you. Now you just there to back up if he got out of pocket. That's it. Case closed. All right, so what else I got in the bag for you, right? I got a couple more things in here. How about this here, right? I got this here, right? Check this story out and be right back.
We'll turn now to the fatal mix-up at a Chicago hospital. The wrong family making the heart-wrenching decision to remove life support on someone who was not actually their family member. Tonight, those families blaming police for misidentifying a critically injured man. ABC's Alex Perez picks it up from here.
This Chicago man was badly beaten and found unconscious by police. Hospitalized and on life support, authorities used mugshots in May to determine he was Rosie Brooks' missing brother, Alfonso Bennett. But she immediately told doctors something didn't seem right.
I said, Doc, I understand what you're saying, but I cannot recognize him as my brother.
Showing no signs of improvement, Brooks and her family made the excruciating decision to take him off of life support. But as they prepared for his funeral, Alfonso Bennett, very much alive and well, walked into a friend's barbecue.
She said, he's here, he's alive.
It turns out the missing man was actually Elijah Brittman. Fingerprints from the morgue eventually revealing his true identity.
It wasn't just I just searched for him one day. It was every day.
Both families now coming together, filing a wrongful death lawsuit against Chicago and the hospital that handled the case.
The bottom line is that this mistaken identity situation was something that we very much think could have easily been avoided.
Cecilia, tonight neither the city nor the hospital commenting on that lawsuit.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Man. Wow. What? Can you believe that? Oh my God, man. So you have Elijah Brittman, right? I think his name was Elisha Brittman, right? Right? He was 69. He was found naked and beaten underneath a car on 47th and Wabash, right, in Bronzeville, back in April 29. They took him to Mercy Hospital, listed him as John Doe for about 2 weeks until police took a mugshot to identify him, right? And so hospital staff then reached out to the Bennett family, who they told doctors and nurses that they did not believe the man in coma in intensive care was their relative. And so they were trying to figure out, well, how do you all verify that this is Alfonso Bennett? Now, remember, there's two different dudes. Now, again, the original was Brittman, who was beaten. But then they tell them that Bennett, that this was Alfonso, right? And so here was this family making the decision on somebody because they said, well, they couldn't recognize due to the simple fact, again, that they had been told how he was beaten and they couldn't recognize. Man, they said, well, but there was just something that just wasn't matching. But yet, based on the circumstances of the situation, they felt like, well, maybe if this him, and they believed they had to come to the conclusion that this was him, they made the decision to say, go and pull the plug on him. Right? Now here they is pulling the plug, getting the funeral arrangements already, and at the barbecue my man come walking in. What? My man comes walking in. Oh man. You know how that's crazy. There's so many malfeasance on so many different parts in here. I mean, the doctors to make that decision, and yet, based on, they said mugshots, did the mugshots match what they said? And it couldn't have. So it's like, they black. It's kind of like they all look alike. Shit, right? They all look alike. So it didn't matter. And so here it is. You made this family be the responsible culprit for this man no longer being on the planet. Can you? Oh man, I mean, we got to cross our I's and dots our T's in all these situations, because motherfuckers just don't give 2 cent shit about, you know what I'm saying? They don't give 2 cent shit, man. And they put that shit on you. I'm getting a picture of the brother, man. That brother right there, man, lost his life. Bad enough that he had got, beat up and left for half dead. And he was slowly recovering, pretty much to the fact that he was like, already kind of in a bad situation. It was like, life clinging on to life. And so it was the police, the one that decided to say that he was who they thought they were seeing. So, I mean, the family did the right thing. They consoling, cajoling with each other, and then realizing that wasn't y'all fault, right? Can't hold grudges of them, because it was just it was a weird ass situation to be in, right? You coming there about a loved one, another one is in there about a loved one. They searching, trying to find this one. This family thinking this is the individual who they think it is. They kind of question this, like things ain't matching up. But the situation that says like, man, we gonna let this person keep going on, thinking that this is their people. They go ahead and make the call, and come to find out that wasn't it, right? So it's kind of like that. And then the family recognizing after everything been taught out, they accept them, embrace them, love. That's right there. It's true black love right there. Because again, they didn't make that call on their own. There was a lot of variables and things that could have been checked to make sure and validate before we're going to make this call. And even you say that this family, this is who this is. Y'all didn't even know either. You had John Doe on there. How'd you come from John Doe to say? Just ridiculous, man. What Michael Jackson said, all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Huh? Oh, man, that's tragic. That's just tragedy, man. But again, that's what just happened, y'all. So, what can you say, right? It is what it is, right? So, let me show you this, too, while we at it, because people say, hey,
Well, this Independence Day Eve, public service is on the minds of many. That also includes the sacrifices those in uniform make every day. Tonight, NBC Local 33's Harrison Golden explains a new state law to help those who risk their physical and mental health in our communities.
The way we went about things was suck it up, Buttercup. Chad Major has been a firefighter for more than 30 years in Baton Rouge, seeing too many burned bodies to count.
We didn't get emotional about it. Matter of fact, we got back to the station and kind of joked about it. That's the way we processed it.
But he says that approach has led firefighters, police, and medics to spiraling mental illness, as well as higher suicide and divorce rates. And so, starting August 1st, Louisiana will add post-traumatic stress disorder to the list of injuries eligible for a first responders workers' compensation.
What bills like this show is that we appreciate your patriotic sacrifice in our community.
State Senator Ryan Gaddy drafted the bill to widen PTSD coverage. His measure won unanimous legislative support this past spring, following candid testimonies at the Capitol.
Even being here today, hearing the zippers of briefcases in this room has raised my anxiety. It causes me flashbacks of body bags.
These firemen, policemen, the first responders, they see some of the worst things that you can see on the road or in a home.
To qualify for the compensation, first responders will first need a psychologist or psychiatrist to diagnose them with PTSD. Getty hopes the incoming law will lead public servants to care for themselves as they do for others.
Whether it's magic or tragic, that the state's going to be there with you to give you the help you need to make it through the tough times.
Supporters also hope the law's enactment will further a culture change within police, fire, and EMS departments to end the stigmas of stress.
I think it's a win-win for everyone. And at the end of the day, I think it's a win for the public because those people responding to them are going to be on their A game and doing what we're supposed to do.
For NBC Local 33 News, I'm Harrison Golden.
And according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, almost 4% of adult Americans are affected by PTSD.
In honor of the 4th of July, Louisiana state parks are offering former and current military members and first responders a discount. The 15% discount applies to rentals of all sites on state park properties, including campsites and conference centers, and will last until the end of the year. So if you are a veteran, military member, or first responder, you can check out this story on our website or free Be Our Proud app to see how you can use your discount.
All right, so we're seeing Louisiana, right? Oh, man. So you see, Shreveport, Louisiana decided they're trying to pass some legislation that the first responders, EMT, and civil servants can qualify for PTSD. That's probably not a bad thing because, again, like the video, the clip was showing, that, think about police officers and EMTs and firefighters. They see a lot of gory, serious, situations that we may read about and be able to hear the stories and try to fan them in our mind, but they actually get to see it up and close, right? And so, again, like they say that, watching these gory, killing, serial type killing ass movies desensitizes you, right? So that's what happens with these individuals too, is they actually are absorbing so much on so many, we couldn't even fathom. Like I said, the dude was like, when we make jokes, I don't know what could be funny about situations, but he said we had to make jokes and laugh and shit about so that it don't be in our minds, because again, they see so much on the daily, in a month, 6 months, year, 5 years, 10, you know what I'm saying? It adds up. So do they have post-traumatic syndrome? Probably so. So I'm looking at this, okay, let's put it this way. We will not have an issue with that. Now, let's look at we as BADOS, ADOS, right? If a police officer of what he's gone through and what he sees can have PTSD, an EMT can have that, a firefighter can have that. Well, what does black Americans have, right? We live in those environments. We carry a lot of that shit. We go through it in so many spiritual subliminal ways that it's unfathomable that most of us have what we consider sane minds and rationale is like, again, we are the eighth wonders of the world. Because why? Because look, if they can go through that on a job, punching the clock, 8 hours, 12 hours. When you live on it 24 hours, 365 days, and yet you ain't out here all tore up and all this, and the traumatic aspect that's happening to them is not so much prevalent in you. And then when it is prevalent like that, people seem to, again, talk about all this, why black people all messed up and don't understand why. Well, there's got to be something. That PTSD is something you can get working on a job or being in the military. Then what about we who always constantly under the spirit, umbrella, legislation, laws, whatever you want, however you want to categorize it, we live on it daily. Not all of us, because some of us learn to get the butter biscuits on the other side. But I'm just saying those on the other side of the fence that see that. So then there's got to be another kind of diagnosis that we as black folks have. And the traumatic experience is generational. Again, you're commemorating pretty soon 400 years of people who have not been remedied in no form, state, or fashion. And a person can go to a job for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 40 years, and can be getting PTSD for a check. Then why can't black people, after all the ordeals and what our people, and again, even in science have said that trauma can be passed down to generation, then we are the eighth wonders of the world. Take it or leave it alone. That's up to you. So if they can get a check for that, we damn could get a check for that, right? Matter of fact, let me show you a situation where it might be PTSD, right? So let me show you this, and then we move on. All right, check this out. I'll be right back.
What happened to the 5-year-old girl found dead at a Redford motel and her 3-year-old brother is no longer a mystery. Both her mother and her mother's boyfriend are charged with murder, and tonight detectives are sharing more of what they found. Mara McDonald is live tonight in Redford Township. Mara, when police got to that motel Tuesday, it was already too late.
It was, Devin. She had no pulse, although a Redford Township police officer desperately tried to revive her here using CPR. What these children endured behind closed doors in this motel is detailed by the detective as he explains all the injuries on their bodies. First, 5-year-old Lyric, who was already dead when police got on the scene Tuesday.
Examination at that time showed multiple bruises on her back, legs, and head. External vaginal tearing was also noted.
Also inside that Redford motel room, her 3-year-old brother, who is now in the care of the state.
Where he was found to have several fractured ribs in different states of healing, multiple bruises and swelling, lacerations and a contusion to his liver, a distended abdomen, and anemia.
The children's mother, Stephanie Jones, wept through her arraignment late this afternoon.
The right to remain silent. Anything that you say orally or in writing can be...
Her boyfriend, Michael Deshaun Lewis, showed no emotion. Both Lewis and Jones say they're the only two who watch the children, and both admit to what they call disciplining them.
Stephanie stated that she and Lewis have been together for 1 to 2 years, and that he watches both kids 5 days a week while she works, and that she and Lewis have domestic incidents 1 to 2 times per week. She also stated that Lewis hits the kids every day with his fists and also uses a belt.
Back here live, the official ruling from the medical examiner's office is that 5-year-old Lyric died from blunt force trauma. They have ruled her death a homicide. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend have both been charged with murder. Neither of them got a bail option today. We're live in Redford Township tonight. I'm Mara McDonald. Back to you.
It's just so hard to stomach. All right, Mara.
All right, so we see a little girl in Redmond, who seemed to had succumbed to her death due to the monstrosity that happened between the mother and the boyfriend, or was it the mother allowing the boyfriend who watched the child, and she came back, and again, I guess as that story will develop and more will come out as to what all took place. But as I said, PTSD, okay? There has to be something classified higher than PTSD because, again, you know, some people, again, it's like when you were reared in a way where your parents use a type of corporal punishment, whether it was by spanking, belt, some even went to stenching cords, right? Now, that, again, we don't condone that. But again, this is, again, I made a video talking about our learned association was from white folks. What we learned, when we talk about discipline, came from white folks. What we learned from on the plantations. So don't be mad. Remember when Charles Barkley talking about everybody in the South would whoop. That means all of them, right? When the whole thing that went on about Adrian Peterson, about how he whooped his child only because the child was fair-skinned and could see the bruises and then went to school, and, you know, that whole thing. So, but, you know, that's where we learned that. And so, again, this does not condone what this individual did. It's just the simple fact that there has to be something wrong with you psychologically. Because, again, people who have not gone through that insinuate what they think you're supposed to administer. People who gone through it know, even though that they have gotten spanking, whoopings, you know, they knew it was still out of love to correct them for what they had done. And there's a way to administer that kind of, you know, discipline without being traumatic, without putting somebody at risk of life. It could just correct them. Again, some people take the scriptures and say, spoil the rod, spare the child, right? But again, when it starts becoming fisticuff, you're punching, bruising, beating, right? And then it said in the report, it said about vaginal tearing. So that was something entirely different. This seemed like this was some other stuff going on. So this individual here seems to have not got all his scruples together, right? And so, again, long, prolonged abuse, again, not just the immediate, as to say his own family, we're just going to say as a people, and what traumatically has happened to us historically are all contributing aspects to when you see people in this, you know what I'm saying, in this kind of state, whether people want to recognize it or not and try to say it is not. But the truth of the matter is, it's cause and effects. And you can't take that effect without talking about the cause to it. And it's just been one cause and effect going on and going on and going on. Some people can't fathom that some families have been going a long time on this same treadmill. And some people have broken the cycle. And some people are trying to find ways to get out of the cycle. But again, it is, you know, part of the experience of being Black American in this nation. And so sometimes that particular illness may fall directly on one particular individual, and then you come across and they should have to be your parents. And then a lot of times we hear stories like this. It's sad, it's tragic, and it needs to bring some awareness. But again, if you can have a job and can be classified PTSD because of what you see, what happens to a people who have historically been living that, what trauma do they got? Or is it something we're just not going to talk about? And if you do, are you going to try to use it as a way to stigmatize and incarcerate? Because a lot of times, a lot of these county lockups are really nothing but psychiatric wards, where a lot of people who are dealing with their own, again, with the medication. This is why they're trying to legalize marijuana, right? Not so much as almost, it's about the money too, the taxation is all that too, right? And the licenses and all that good stuff. But again, this is another way, a soft way to deal with, they know that the spilling over of this psychological shit, because we will have some people in a more common, especially who is the one administer and, you know, putting the so-called chemicals that's going to allow you to get your high. Where is that going to be coming from? And who's regulating that? And what kind of thing down the line are they preparing? So that's why this legalization may sound good, but you better watch out for Frankenstein. He got a trick up his sleeve. moving on. All right, so let me go to this here, right? Let me end that up on this one here, right? So, it's been 40 years since those who have been around may have remembered this, right? You remember hearing about Atlanta? And it was called the Atlanta child murder, right? So let me show you this. It's on the 40-year anniversary. Check it out.
People are still suffering with post-traumatic stress as a result of what happened 40 years ago.
We begin tonight with explosive new developments in the reopened investigation into the Atlanta child murders. We can confirm exclusively that investigators do not believe Wayne Williams was the only killer.
All right, we're going to get straight over to Ryan Kruger with these new details. And Ryan, Atlanta police that say that some of those killings do not match the others.
Yeah, we're talking about 4 deaths in total, Ron and Aisha. It was 2 girls, 2 boys. APD tells us that investigators now believe, based on the patterns of the other cases, that those 4 children could not have been killed by the same serial killer.
For nearly 40 years, one man, Wayne Williams, has been the sole suspect in the murder of nearly 30 children in Atlanta. Never convicted of killing any kids, Williams has always maintained his innocence. Michael Langford and Sunshine Lewis have known Williams for more than 40 years.
If nothing else, what this shows is we know for a fact there was more than one killer.
Absolutely. Which in and of itself raises concerns of how in the world did we close the book on these unresolved cases.
Investigators have created a list of 30 cases, often tied to the child murders. APD tells 11 Alive that 2 female victims on the list do not fit the pattern of the cases involving the male victims. Based on the case files, the victims are Angel Lanier and Latonia Wilson. Sunshine Lewis lived in the same neighborhood where Wilson's body was found back in 1980.
Next thing I know, my dad was coming in the house telling, all of us to get away from the windows, get away from the doors, just stay from, he didn't want any of his kids to see what was going on.
We've also learned that investigators believe 2 male victims also weren't killed by the same serial killer. In fact, one wasn't killed by anyone. Investigators believe his death was an accident, while the second one appears to have been killed by a relative. Their identities have not yet been released. APD tells us their work is far from over, and it could take 2 more years before they are finished.
These parents deserve the truth. Atlanta deserves the truth. Mm-hmm.
And Ryan, I'm sure so many families are just thankful that this case has been reopened in this way, but what does this new development mean? Any suspects in regards to those other murders?
No, so right now, no. Investigators are stressing this latest development does not mean there are any new suspects out there. It does not mean that there are any arrests upcoming in any of these cases. Unfortunately, what it does do is it creates even more questions in this case. It's really haunted this city for 4 decades.
All right, thank you so much, Ryan. We will stay on top of it.
All right, so again, 40 years ago, about 1979, those who were around remember we was hearing about the Atlanta child murders. And then they said that this individual that I'm going to put up on the screen for you, I think his name was Wayne. Right, this individual here, right? It goes back to, again, Atlanta child murder. They called it the Atlanta child murders, right? His name was Wayne Williams, right? And that's who the face they really put as the Atlanta child murderer, right? And the murders were committed in Atlanta, Georgia, middle of 1979 until about May 1981. It was over a 2-year period. They said at least 28 children, adolescents, and adults were killed. Now they say Wayne Williams, that you see on your screen there, who was a native of Atlanta, he was 23 years old at that time, right? And he was tried and convicted of 2 adult murders. Now again, he was only convicted for 2 adult murders, not for them children, right? And so what he ended up getting was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. And he was subsequently had attributed a number of the child murders to Williams. Again, the police did. They never had no evidence that really pinpointed him to any of the child murders, but they did have the 2 adults. And so what they did is they attributed it to him, and he became the face to cover that up. Now, again, I've heard a lot of things over the years about some of the stuff that they were saying. People, it was, again, people picking up again, because you got to think CDC is in Atlanta too, right? A lot of them bodies have never been found, right? So I was hearing what people saying there was trucks going around. I mean, there's a lot of stories that have been over the years. You're talking about 40 years, right? And so, although he had not been charged in any of those cases, he all to this day still said he maintained his innocence. And then it was in 2019 that Keisha Lance Bottoms, again, that became the mayor, and I think she is also related to Hey There, Good Stuff. Everybody remember that Sylvia used to sing that song? I think she got 2 parents who were both entertainers, right? So Keisha Lance Bottoms, if I'm not mistaken, she reopened the case, and she was going to use the technology now to try to see if she could figure a lot of this out. Now, again, originally it was about I think it was Edward Hope Smith. They also called him Teddy. And let me show some of the pictures up here of this, right? Let me show y'all some of this here. Hold on. Let me give some of our ancestors and some of our relatives, right? Possibly, right? So here's some of the pictures of the 28 that they were showing at the time, right? And so you have Edward Hope Smith, they also known as Teddy. You had Alfred Williams, known as Q. They both had disappeared 4 days apart. Then you had Cherry Pugh, who later went missing in about early in 1981. He lived in the same apartment as Smith. Their bodies were both found July 28th in a wooded area. Smith was a .22 caliber bullet gunshot wound in his upper back. They were believed to be the first victim of the putative Atlanta child killers, right? That was the beginning of it, was with them, right? And then later on September 4th, you had the 14-year-old Milton Harvey who disappeared. He went on an errand to the bank for his mother and riding a yellow 10-speed bike, and was found weeks later in the remote area of Atlanta. The body was not recovered until November that year. Then about October 21st, you had a 9-year-old named Yusuf Bell who went to the store to buy some snuff for a neighbor, Eula Birdsong. Yusuf, it was a witness said that she saw Yusuf get into a blue car before he disappeared. His body was later found November in abandoned E.P. Johnson Elementary School by a school janitor who was looking for a place to urinate. Bell's body was found clothed in a brown cut-off short. He was last seen wearing, though they had pieces of masking tape stuck to them. He had been hit over the head twice, and cause of death was strangulation. Police did not immediately link his disappearance to the previous killings. They didn't even link him to the other ones at the time. Then about March 4th, 1980, the first female victim was a 12-year-old girl named Angel Lenar. She disappeared. She had left her house around about 4 p.m. Was last seen at a friend's house watching the television show. They saying talking about Sanford and Son, right? And about 6 days later, they found her in a wooded vacant lot around Campbellton Road, wearing the same clothes she left when she left home. But they said what was odd was the fact that she had a pair of white panties that belonged to Lanier were stuffed in her mouth. Her hands were bound with an electrical cord, and the cause of death was strangulation. On March 11, Leonard, 1 week after Leonard disappeared, 11-year-old Jeffrey Mathis. He disappeared. He went on an errand for his mother, wearing a gray jogging pants. And a month later, a girl saw him get into a blue car with a light-skinned man and a dark-skinned man. Jeffrey Mathis was found Briar Clove patch of Woodlands about 11 months after he disappeared. Then by May 18th, a 14-year-old named Eric Middlebrook, he disappeared, answered a telephone call at his home, then hurried on his bicycle with a hammer to repair a bicycle. He was found the next day next to his bicycle in the rear garage of Atlanta Bar, which was located next to a Georgia Department of Offenders Rehabilitation Center. Pockets was turned out, chest had slight stab wounds. They said the cause of death was a blunt trauma to his head, right? And it says that a few weeks before he disappeared, Middlebrook had testified before 3 juveniles in a robbery case. So it could be his death could have been tied to that. But again, why did they do what they said they did? Why did they do this, right? So on June 9th, a 12-year-old Christopher Richardson went missing on his way to a local pool. His body was found the following January, right? The cause of Richardson's death was not determined. They couldn't even determine what his death was from. On June 27th, 7-year-old LaTanya Wilson, she disappeared from her parents' apartment. According to the witness, they said she had disappeared, been abducted by 2 men who had seen climbing into the apartment window and holding Wilson in their arms. And the other man was in the parking lot. October 18th, Wilson's body was found in a fenced area end of Verbena Street in Atlanta. Body had skeletonized and no cause of death could be established. Next day, on June 23rd, a 10-year-old Aaron Winch disappeared after having been seen at a local grocery store, a blue Chevrolet. 1 or 2 black men, the witness description of the car matched the description earlier implicated that Jeffrey Mathis' disappearance. Remember when he talked about him? Found day Winch's body was found under a bridge. Picture cause of death was asphyxiation from a broken neck suffered in a fall. Okay? And it just goes on. And again, I don't do this to disrespect anybody else that I did not name, but I will just go ahead. Anthony Carter, Earl Terrell, Luby Gator, and there were 6 more bodies that they didn't have names. Eddie Duncan was the first adult victim, they say. Larry Rogers, John Potter, Jimmy Ray Payne, Billy Starr Barrett, and Robert Henry. And again, you see that all those names, and again, they're not even given all the names. But again, this brother Wayne Williams was given the credit for doing all those murders. Why did they tell us that? Why did they have us thinking to try to have a black man to do all those murders and do them with children? What was they sending the message? Because it got to the point they was thinking that it was going to end up creating a race war, right? Because they believed that it probably was whites and the Ku Klux Klan that was doing it, right? But so to cool and quell all that down, they end up using Wayne Williams. Now, again, I can't say for a fact whether he did or did not, but according to what the police said, the police had said that they were staking out the Chattahoochee River. They were staking out, and then somehow they sent a Chevrolet station wagon, a 1970 station wagon, came drive by across the bridge. Said Wayne Bertrand Williams, a supposed music promoter and freelancer photographer, seemed they heard a splash. And according to the splash, they later on said after they found later on about miles down, they found a body. But according to the body that they found, they said the body had been so watered and decomposed, it couldn't have been just dropped 2 days later. Like if it was the May 22nd, they said they found the body on May 24th. And they said this is how they said that he dropped the body in the water. But how could a body in 2 days be so decomposed and so, so much water in it in 2 days and deteriorated so bad and said that he had just dropped the body in the water, right? So all this stuff was very questionable. It hushed down. They had their man, but here it is now. The story is being reopened once again. But with the technology, can they find, or if not, it's just, it is what it is. But this was a tragic part in our history for those who was around at that time. A lot of people was very apprehensive at that time. It was like, again, like you heard the woman in the video or the news clip was saying that, people was like, they was trying to keep an eye on their kids, not letting them get out their eyesight, the fear for that somebody was going to snatch the children and all this other stuff. And again, they feel like they went through PTSD themselves based on the simple fact that you had this stigmatization of this, and a lot of this could have been just random other things, circumstances that just end up seem like it was one big thing, and they created that. And now they come to find out that 4 of them possibly was not by the same person. Well, not just 4, a lot of them, especially when you said that you convicted him was only with 2 people, and they were adults, they weren't children. And we know how some fabrication that goes on when they collaborate and they're trying to make some case stick. So, I mean, you really did a lot of damage to the families of these individuals who lost their lives and never, again, the case probably can never be resolved due to the simple fact that, again, they don't get no fuck. So, yeah, that's for those who didn't know, so you know now, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this one other story, right? I said some other things, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to tell you this one here, right? So let's say, for instance, right? You know how, some people can read certain things and they say, well, Jesus is going to come back in the sky, crack the sky and come down and going to save all black people. There's people who actually believe that, right? So what if I tell you this? If I tell you that a flight crew restrained God aboard Delta flight returns to Puerto Rico, right? Now, I said a Delta airline flight attendant restrained a passenger on a flight from Puerto Rico to New York after he shouted, "I am God!" and claimed he would save the world, forcing the plane to return to the airport in San Juan. Puerto Rican police and airlines said on Wednesday. Delta credited passengers with helping subdue the man who became unruly on board. Puerto Rican police then custody a man identified as Carlos Ramirez, 30, and the case was taken over by the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, police said in a statement. The suspect was aggressive and shouted, "I am God! San Juan is going to disappear tomorrow. I came to save the world and I'm going to end terrorism." And he also tried to enter the main cabin, the statement said. Cockpit door remained closed and secured throughout the incident, Delta said. Delta applauded the quick action and professionalism of the crew of Delta Flight 579. The airline said the flight attendant crew swiftly restrained the individual with help from some customers. The flight ultimately arrived at John F. Kennedy International Airport 2 hours late, Delta said, reporting this story. Now, let's just say, you ever seen the Mac? You remember that part in the Mac when they show the police station and then they show the feet and they come all the way up and then the white police officer sitting in the desk and he writing and he look up and he look at him, he said, "How can I help you?" He said, "What's your name?" He said, "Jesus." So what's your first name? "Jesus." Last name? "Christ." "Where you from?" "Bethlehem." "Yeah, okay." He said, "How can I help you?" "First, let me get a cup of coffee. Let me get a quarter for a cup of coffee." Now, it's funny, but you got to ask yourself, if, let's say, that the Creator did come in the personage of a human, I know y'all, we hypothetically speaking, in today's world, the way people is today, if you believe in Jesus, okay, the Creator, and if they was in the personage and walked around and said things, and you wouldn't believe them. Because the way you so fixed in your mind about shit, you just said the motherfucker got to be crazy. Ain't no way to God. But what if you did that? What if it is true? He had come in his own world and come to find out that his creation couldn't even accept him because why? They so saturated with the demonic spirit and mind that you can't even recognize when it's in your face. Now, again, I'm not saying what he is, and I'm just hypotheticalizing the situation. But you better think about that. You never know certain things might be what it is and appear it might be. You never know. So you better do it with kid gloves and just kind of say, okay, let people deal with it. But you never know. Things are happening. Now, am I saying the creator could come? I can't say it can or whether it can or cannot. I'm just saying somebody's crazy enough to say that. You better look at them like, okay, either you crazy or maybe could be what it is, right? If somebody said they're a prophet, do you believe they're a prophet? Do you believe that people say they're messengers? Well, what if the one said the sign, let us go down there? If you could believe the scripture said, let us go down there and stop them. If you could believe that, then you might as well believe that Carlos Ramirez could be the creator. This is my show for today, y'all. This is Mr. Blows Your Mind coming with another thought-provoking show. Again, for July the 6th, 2019. Again, stay black, peace, love, and all that good stuff. Again, I did have another one. I'm sorry, my brother, we're going to get you on the next show because I got some stuff going on in the background. I got to get to it, so I'm cutting out a little bit. So, get into the next show. Peace, love, and all that.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything.
Luther and I and everyone in this arena tonight are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on. And it definitely was not prepared for black people to in the end begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they died for. Right on. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the wolf.
They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saying 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy.
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians. When Irish love Irish. But when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin.
They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people. Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu. All white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control, which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the sixth version.
5 months before me. 3. There are only 2 possible explanations. They were 5 months before me. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Control me! I'm gonna smash you to fucking You can't make me do anything like Chris.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga. And if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
That's true.
I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? Knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. He said, Brother Greg, you coming by today. And I said, Malcolm, I love you. And I said, I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there. He said, what do you mean, Brother Greg? I said, well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East. And I said, but I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning. And I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary, booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport. And I'm going to go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm going to stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not going to let this government get two of us for the price of one. And I'm going to call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government is going to get you.